Hello, ladies and gentlemen. As I mentioned, today I will talk a lot about money. So after short introduction, we will talk about the history of cost optimization when it started. Then my favorite and the most important topic from my point of view is communication to stakeholders. Then approach how to bring all this in life. And I hope you will have questions after it. So our expectation is cloud computer for bills it will be reduced. And during this presentation, I will give you step-by-step guide how usually we communicate and how we sell this idea to customers and how we implement it in life. But before we begin, let's say hello to my friend, FinOps. It's something new in the market, and everybody starts talking about crisis that we will have in IT now. So more and more big companies start talking about FinOps and open vacancy for it. So FinOps, as you hear from the name, it's something similar to security operation, maybe even to DevOps. It's a framework that allows organization to maintain the OpEx cost for cloud computer resources. And from my point of view, with time, it will be more and more valuable role in the market. In general, money is not the most important thing in the world. The love is. Fortunately for me and my friends, both we love the money. And let me introduce myself. I started working in IT enterprise starting from 2004 as system administrator. A little bit later, I started working as developer. Again, because of money, because the salary was much higher. And sometimes it was much faster to do work instead of system administrators that wait. Then a little bit later, the same instead of DBA, instead of network administrator. And starting from 2008, we started to call this methodology DevOps. So from this time, I work almost all the time with infrastructure, 11 years in fintech and payments. And all this time I work with money, with budgets, and with optimization of this budget. Let's play the game before we begin our talk to understand how this topic is relevant to you. So I will give you a full pattern. In case if this pattern is very similar to you, you know what I'm talking about, you have this case and you agree with it, say yeah. In case if you never heard about this pattern, in case if it's definitely not from your previous history, just say nah. So the first one, when company or manager buys some new very expensive tools and say, oh, now we need to use this tool for our services for our company. And you and your friends start talking, it will be much better to use some open source solutions that we know and all this money shared between us or invest in education. Yeah or no? Yeah, definitely. So now it's my favorite. So solutions perfectly work on their environment, but when it was delivered to stage or to production, something go wrong, and developers think now it's problem of operations. Yeah or no? Good. And from the previous, but to solve it, just add more resource, more CPU, more RAM, more ops will definitely solve a problem. Yeah or no? And the last one, when the company speed of release to production have a priority and release have a production, release to production have priority under all, and money is not a problem at all. Yeah or no? Really? 11 years I have no this experience before the previous year. So let's start from the history for beginning. Once upon a time in our galaxy was a servers in data room, and everything was pretty easy. You need more resources, you buy additional server, you add it to rack. It can happen that you will have no place in your rack and you need to order additional rack. So horizontal and vertical scaling, everything was pretty nice and easy. Only one problem, the more racks you have, the more power you need, the more you need to think about cooling and so on. And for us, it was a totally new discovery outside of IT. For example, we create a story for real engineers, as I say, for real architects. The story with one question: what place of wall in the building we can make a hole to deliver a huge IBM rack that is not possible to deliver through the secure door in our data center? And all these paths to statement that investments to support all this hardware and software sometimes cost much more than hardware and software at all. And none of this is support and help us to break the most damaged part when it happens the power outage. Even when we buy the huge generators and containers and stand them near the building, power outage more than 2 hours and you need more than 300 liters of diesel. So in any case, the data center outage happened and it go down. But then begins the clouds era. At beginning of cloud era, everybody want to go to cloud. So companies want to go to cloud to have a nice press release like, we operate in cloud, we have an expertise, we know it's all. Developers want to, or DevOps want to go to cloud because of UI in CV. Like, I have experience working cloud, and all the time it was some problem. First of all, the cost of cloud infrastructure was extremely high. Second, it's a time when new role appear together with cloud DevOps, and the system administrator can bring down one server, maybe two, maybe one rack. So DevOps with error in his code can make the all server go down and push down all infrastructure. In this time, we built a very nice minimum value payment product in clouds. Even before company take a decision go to clouds, and we say, hey, this is our concept. It's absolutely functional. It can accept any payment that you send him, and it's work, and it can be scaled. But unfortunately, management of company not believe in this time for this statement, and they decide to make a load test in AWS Cloud for real payments. So load tests were started in Friday evening when nobody checks this environment, and finished after we disable public endpoints. Everything was nice. AWS handled all the loads. Everything was pretty nice, except one exception: the bill from AWS. The bill from the AWS for the 3-day load test in AWS cost almost the 1 year research and development budget in clouds. And it was a blocker for company to go for cloud for the next few years. Very unexpected. So what about now? And now all the companies want to balance between the cost for providing the services and the cost that they spend for maintaining the services, especially in cloud, because of different reasons. So it's time for our friend, FineOp. Let's touch first the most important topic regarding the optimization of cost, that from my point of view, it's our stakeholders. When you decide to optimize cost in clouds, whom do you think will help you? Operations that actually operate all infrastructure, create all the services, and they want to have some backup capacity. So in case of incident happens, they do not need to participate in it. Maybe, but not. Monitoring teams. In usual, they don't care about it. Only if they are reporting for the cost or for some trend line of costs. My favorite, complaints and regulations. After 12 years in fintech, I never have support from complaints and regulations. Complaints and regulation make all the time trouble with the implementation, new technology, or new ideas, or new everything. And of course, decision maker. It seems like it's very easy to come to your C-level and ask, I have an idea how to decrease cost of operation in cloud for the 20-30%, and it will save you this amount of millions. But usually people say, oh, maybe it's problem, maybe it's not. Go to these guys, to operation, to monitoring teams, or to compliance. Let they take decision. So before we will implement this idea in life, you definitely need to know who is interested in the implementation and bringing to life optimization of cost in your company, and who don't want to do it because they can be a blocker. So, a real case story when cost is not a problem. Last year, I worked as lead for DevOps security in one very huge company. Their revenue per year, $24 billion. And they go in production with new reputation product. So I come just before delivery to production of product after 1 year of development. And as responsible for DevOps security, I say that it's not ready yet. We need to do some changes in architecture and so on, so on. It was not in time, definitely. And company have no capacity for developers. to make some changes now. So what do they want to do? They want just to increase resources, like from our example, add more CPU, more memory, more IOPS, and so on. And explanation like, no, let's not do it. It's a wrong way. We need to make a stable and cheap product first and then to release the production. It's not work. So the last argument was from my side to top management. Like, dear top management, imagine after your company, I will go work to Microsoft and Microsoft will ask me, what have you done for the previous year? What is your best achievement? And I will say, remember this very rich company that pay you several $1 million per month for infrastructure? We say, yes, of course. And remember the bills from $2 million rise to $5 million only in 1 month. We say, oh, yes, it's my job. So nothing worked in this case. And we really go to production with this overextended infrastructure. But then, unexpectedly, my friends from the previous slide, compliance come and say, oh guys, you cannot do like this. It will not work, you will not have revenue. But nobody think about revenue, it's a reputation product. And then compliance, I say to compliance, okay, I have an idea how to do it. I just need 2 weeks of work and some number of resources to do it. And compliance block everything until this work were implemented. So in general, it was decreased cost from the production infrastructure from $3,500 per hour to $300 per hour. And actually done very easy. So what do you need to bring to life? From the perspective of communication with technical people, usually we have no the problem. We know that we will increase flexibility, we will automate something, we will provision and deprovision infrastructure. It's easy to explain, but usually business don't care about it. For builders, it's interesting about reduce cloud bills, about performance. When you say the performance will be better because of we'll reduce it, maybe not, maybe yes, but definitely business will like it. And improving profitability is the most interesting part for business when you talk about profitability. Because when it costs much, nobody cares because everybody expects that it will give a lot of money. But in case if you're able to talk with some business analytic about some research, what profit company wait for you and compare this profit to the money involved in investment in infrastructure, it can be a real argument to business. And now let's talk how to bring all this stuff in life. So definitely we need to answer only 2 questions. What do we need to solve and how do we need to solve? From what do we need to solve? Of course, it's more about communication with business and about communication with stakeholders. So we need to have understanding what resources are critical for company and what resources are not. And if you are new in this topic and you have no experience and you want to trade, it's much better to start from resources that are not so critical for company. Then we have a lot of patterns for designing and operation clouds, infrastructure, cost efficiency. Pattern from Microsoft, pattern from AWS. And by the way, if you work in enterprise, do not have ties to contact these companies. For example, you can create ticket to Microsoft in 1 week or something like this. They will find a specialist for you who will make assessment on your infrastructure and who will explain to you how you can decrease the cost. And sometimes this finding can be very unexpected for you because you think that you know your infrastructure pretty well. And when you have the fresh look on this infrastructure, it can be the new idea. About how? So first of all, we need assessment. Then definitely we need monitoring for observability of our infrastructure and for our cost spending at all. And then we can talk about optimizing, configure, or set up something to make it better. So in general, all stages look like this. First, we need assessment. It's a totally separate topic for discussion. Working with IT for almost 20 years, we make a lot of assessments, and I see that even every company have a special workflow how to analyze infrastructure, how to analyze infrastructure internal, how to do for clients, and so on. So definitely they need assessment and prioritization of things that we need to do. Then we need to make a proposal. as I discussed, it's all about goals, and proposal should be all the cost-benefit analysis. So cost-benefit analysis in this case is comparing revenue or future income the company want to receive from this product with cost on infrastructure, implementation. I will touch this topic a little bit later, but in general, it's first of all about update monitoring and create observability under the product, and then implement some our processes that we discuss with customers. And of course, monitoring and adjust can be documented because sometimes it needs to be made from time to time. And as we talked in the beginning, our main goal is to reduce it and to leave documentation. So one more real case story about other customer. So we have a customer with a huge price of infrastructure, and it was a real problem for customer. And when creating infrastructure assessments, we understand everything, how it's work, and customers use tenants. Tenants means that every market or every customer of our customer able to order some new set of services. And it was pretty small on low environment, like on development, on stage, where our customer tested all. But for production, for endpoint users, all the tenants, that was a pretty big size. And nobody, even from the business analytic part, take a question, and what do our customer need? Do they need a huge tenant or do they need a small tenant? So just it was a decision. The production will look like this and it will work stable because it works stable for the main instance, the main tenant. So what we do, we just implement the short sizing of the all web components. It means if your production is not expected to be highly loaded, you use a small size. If you don't know what it will be, you use the medium size. At medium size, able to keep 100 requests per second. Usually it's enough. For 500 requests per second and for 1000 requests per second, we have an pixel size of tenants. And just with implementation of, I don't know, up to 20 line in codes, we solve everything. It was no need to involve technical specialists. Was not need to do the huge infrastructure assessment. It was solved in communication after 2 meetings. So instead of 2 months that were added by our sales, we do it something like in 1 week. What is important for assessment? For assessment, it's very important to obtain needed access to all cloud services. It can be different clouds. Usually, I prefer to work with 3 of them. And you have the list of services that you need to access. Sometimes customers don't want to add access to the services. For example, for cost center. Because even in case you optimize resource for them, they don't want to show you the whole picture. How do they spend for resource? As soon as you see the whole picture, you can make a proposal for years and even become the part of this company to work with it continuously. But definitely you need to discuss it with customer and have it. Then, proposal. When we make a proposal, I advise to separate all the tasks on 3 parts. So first of all, it should be the task that you need to involve customer. For example, to identify stakeholders and again, grant access that we discussed really early. This task started on the first stage and can be blocker for everything else. In case if you have a contract tender and it's with very strict deadlines, your customer need to know the fee can be the blocker. Then it can start an assessment, and in the same time it should be the work that you've done together with your customer. So customer also need to know about it. In case if he's not help you this work, in case you will not set up goals together, so result will be acceptable for you, but possible not so acceptable for customers. And of course, you can show all the stages, all the work, maybe with epic items that you plan to done to implement all the stuff in light. Now let's talk a little bit about approaches. So how we can do it? First of all, the most important from my point of view is utilization tracking, because it's underutilization or overutilization of resources I see almost never. Usually the company uses the second way, just add more resource, and everything will work fine. But underutilization happening all the time. So sometimes some waste, some low environments work as it is. And all this goes to right sizing. So we can implement right sizing where it's possible. If we don't know how to implement right sizing on the virtual machines, on the instances, start thinking about Kubernetes, because with horizontal plot of the scalar, with scalar of Kubernetes, it's done much, much easier. Then reserved instances. Reserved instances give us a huge benefit in discount price, and even a reservation of our instances inside of subscription, for example, in Azure, is give 30% discount for the 3 years. In case if you know that you plan to use some instances as worker for Kubernetes, as servers for database for the next several years, you can pay just for reservation, and it will decrease the cost of these instances for the 30% in AWS and in Azure, and for Google it will be almost 25%. And of course, automation. So provisioning and deprovisioning instance done very easy from DevOps point of view. It's very easy to automate, but usually companies do not think about it. So if they have development, the development environment work all the times, even during weekends, when it's don't need to work at all because nobody uses it. And still important, but possible was less important, is the spot instances. Sometimes it's much better to use some spot to test. For example, if you have the auto test or regression, and the auto test and regression can be implemented not day by day, but for example during week, then you can use a spot instance. It will be much, much cheaper. Optimization tools. In case if you work with some technology, for example, my favorite, Java in containers, when it needs a lot of resources for start, and after the start, everything will work pretty smooth and it don't need so much resources. You can use optimization tool for it. In our experience, first we optimize all the stuff manually. We start load testing, we see how it can work with this number of requests per second. We set up all the settings, and then we see, man, it will be nice to use machine learning for it. So instead of we do all the stuff and set up manual parameters, we will use machine learning. So we add machine learning, and after we add machine learning, we say, but maybe this product already exists and somebody sees instead of us about this optimization. And yes, just number 5 in Google's, it was a tools that give you even trials to try all the stuff in your production. Governance, policy, and budgets. It's more related to huge enterprise, but all this policy allow you to keep your budget in line and almost never estimate it. And of course, cost allocation. In case if you have different teams, different features, you can separate all this, for example, with tax, and then you will know what is the real price of cloud operation for all of your team or business feature or unit. And in case if it's very important unit, then yes, we can think about optimization and decrease cost a little bit later after we do all the stuff for the not so important units in production. And please, but not last, is possibility to use multi-tenants. It's the most complicated way, because in case if you plan to use multi-cloud infrastructure or cloud agnostic, first of all, you should have your infrastructure and you should have all your stuff the cloud agnostic, that you be able to deploy it to any clouds. But of course, it will give you a much benefit. Usually it's related to very, very huge enterprise. The price of infrastructure in cloud costs more than $1 million per month. Only then they start thinking about this cloud agnostic and multi-cloud solution. Also, it's a blocker in knowledge of human resources. So, according to my experience, DevOps and engineers know very nice or know very good one cloud. Sometimes it can be 2 clouds, but 3, 4, and cloud, including Haftar, for example, Hessler, nobody knows in ideal world. So you will need a team to implement it. For example, you need AWS engineer and you need engineer from Azure. So they work together and split resource based on prices through different clouds. And now I'm ready for the question and answer session. So do you like it? Yeah or no?